completion. In order to earn the certificate, you must be signed in with your full name, remain and participate for the entire hour, and be a member of the MyFossil community. If you have any questions, please contact the project coordinator, Eleanor Gardner, via the MyFossil website or via email. So with that, let's turn it over to Cindy Lochner.
Technical difficulty, everyone. Thanks for your patience. So before we get started, I do want to take a moment to thank MyFossil, including Dr. Bruce McFadden, Eleanor Gardner, who is just amazing, Rachel Narducci, and so many others for their support and for the opportunity to share with you today my journey in amateur paleontology and fossil volunteering. So today I'll provide a brief overview of how I became to be interested and involved in amateur paleontology. I'll share some projects and contributions, some specimens that have been cataloged in museum collections from volunteering, some of the ideas that we'll be using for our upcoming outreach events, how you can find volunteer opportunities and different ways to volunteer, followed by a Q&A and wrap-up. And I hope that after hearing about some of the volunteer opportunities that are available to you, that you'll consider volunteering for an upcoming fossil event. So I am a paleontology, geology, and outdoor enthusiast. That's what I consider myself. So this quote reflects my appreciation for nature and certainly fossils. To be clear, I do not have an educational degree in any of these areas, but rather have taken the opportunity to learn and educate myself through volunteering. My journey started at a very early age. My parents tell me from the time I could walk, I was digging in dirt. I was always bringing in rocks in the house and always just digging in the dirt. When I was around 10, my class took a field trip to the National Museum of Natural History. And I walked through Fossil Hall and I was hooked. I knew that is what I wanted to do. I took my lunch money and instead of lunch, I went and bought a rock from the gift store as a reminder of the day. And this would serve as a momentum for many years that someday I too could find these majestic wonders. You know, women in the field of science was not very common 40 years ago. And when I expressed interest in paleontology with the school guidance counselor at that time, I was a bit discouraged from entering the field since girls didn't really get in that field. So I went about life, and it really wasn't until I moved to Florida and joined the Florida Fossil Hunters that my involvement in fossils would take a significant turn. And really all of my experiences since then can all be attributed back to them. So I'm very grateful to both Bonnie Cronin and Russell Brown. And that's actually a picture of them in the bottom left corner there. That's at one of our Peace River digs, which is always a lot of fun. This middle picture here I just love. It's a Florida Fossil Hunters event. It's an annual event called the Florida Fossil Fair, and I volunteer at that event as well. And this is a picture of a boy who won a fossil at our silent auction. And I just think it's fun when you volunteer, when the children come by, like in this case, just to see the excitement in their eyes that I think sometimes as adults we put aside or just may have forgotten about. So as a result of volunteering with the Florida Fossil Hunters, I became aware of a volunteer opportunity with the Florida Museum of Natural History at one of their dig sites called Thomas Farm. And Thomas Farm is the richest early Miocene vertebrate fossil locality in North America and perhaps the world. There's been more than 100 species found at that site. It's an early Miocene time period, so it's about 18 million years old. And I started volunteering with the museum in 2011 and also have volunteered with them at Millennium Park. And these are some of the pictures here of some of my finds from Thomas Farm. And I've been very lucky at finding fossils at that site, and hence the name that they gave me at that time, which was Lucky Lochner. So they like to have a lot of fun with that. In November 2015, I started volunteering with the museum at their newest site in Montbrook. It's a great site. It's late Miocene, early Pliocene time period, about 5 to 5.5 million years old. And approximately 20,000 fossils have been found there so far. And they range in size from a tiny, tiny fish spine, which is one up here in the corner that I have found, and many others as well, to an adult Gomphothere, skull, tusk, and jaws. Some other pictures on here, you'll see alligator. Have found there's quite a bit of alligator finds there, osteoderm and a tooth. And if you look real close, you can see a shark tooth there as well. And one of my favorite finds of all times is this one here, and that is a juvenile Gomphothere rhycotherium, I hope I'm saying that right, tusk. And that was a really exciting find. Here's something else to the left. This was actually a Gomphothere femur, and Art Poyer found that a couple weeks ago, and I went there the next day. He had found the outline of it, and I spent about 5 hours or so the next day making the trench around it and then jacketing it. And so you'll see a picture of me here with Paul and Jonathan Block, who's the curator, with a little bit of plaster. And I have more plaster than them, so I think they were sneaking plaster on me when I wasn't looking. But anyway, it was a lot of fun. On the top left is a picture of a complete articulated alligator fossil that I found. And after uncovering all the matrix, I was trenching around the fossil so we could jacket it. And in doing so, I found the first swan bone at the site. And this is a fossil that's not very common, and it might even be a new species, don't know yet. I found the second one a few weeks later, and the third one just a week after that. And here you'll see the pictures, the first swan bone, the second, and the third. I have found so far there's been 4 swan bones at the site found that I'm aware of. And I've found 3 of those, so now my new nickname there is the Swan Whisperer. And the bone here on the top, this is a swan metacarpus and 2 tarso-metatarsus. It's a picture off their website comparing modern fossil with one of the fossils from the Montbrook, and so you can see the difference there. And I have found the one on the top. I found 2 of those. Also, as a result of volunteering at the Florida Fossil Hunters Fossil Fair, I met Chris DeLory. I don't know how many of you might know him, but he's the director of the Academy of Natural History Preservation. And this is an educational and fossil preparation teaching lab. And so you'll see a picture of me here doing some preparation work, and Chris is actually way in the background there. And in this case, I'm showing an Oreodont skull that I prepared for Paul with the Florida Paleontological Society. So what I try to do is take pictures before, during, and after either a dig or preparation. So you'll see here I'm cutting open the jacket, and you'll see inside what it looks like before I get started. So you see a lot of the matrix and the glue. And then afterwards, this was the finished product here. And I named it. I always like to have a little fun with these when I do them, so I called it Portia. And then to the right here is some dinosaur fossils that I also prepared at the museum. Or not the museum, I'm sorry, at the lab. Here are some megalodon teeth that I restored using paleo putty and then using acrylic paint after that. So the pieces you see in white are actually missing from the tooth. So they get the teeth in, they're usually damaged. So we had to build them. So we put the paleo putty, and then I add texture to it, trying to match the other side of the tooth. So you can kind of see it in here on this picture and this picture, some of these here. And then these are provided to teachers for educational purposes. So in going left to right, you can see the before and after going across left to right. Now, also as a result of volunteering in the lab, I met Bob Graham, and this is Bob Graham over here in the orange hat. And Bob happens to be on the board of directors for the Two Medicine Dinosaur Center in Montana. And who would have guessed that I'd meet a board of director member from a dinosaur center in Montana in Florida? But I did. So we're good friends, right? Really, really good friends. And I've got to go on quite a few digs and do a lot of prep work with him. On the left here is David Trexler, and he is the paleontologist for the museum. Very interesting story. His mother, Marion Brandvold, over here, in 1978, she found the first baby dinosaur remains in North America. It was by chance that a paleontologist who was on vacation, and you may recognize his name, John Horner, stopped by the rock shop that she owned next to the dinosaur museum. And she showed him the baby dinosaur bones and the egg shells that she had found. And she also presented a hypothesis that she had, that because of the number and the placement of the bones and eggshells, that she felt that maybe dinosaurs cared for their young. So John Horner borrowed the bones, which were studied for many years, and he later came to the conclusion that she was correct in her assumptions. It's very interesting, since this series is about women in paleontology, how coincidental that I would be in connection with a woman who contributed significantly to the field of paleontology through my volunteering. Now, the story doesn't end there, because David's wife, a year later in 1979, discovers a skull of a large hadrosaur that lived in the area during the Upper Cretaceous period. So it was around 76 million years old. It turned out to be a new species. So Jack Horner named the new species Maiasaura peoplesorum. And the generic name refers to the goddess Maya, the Good Mother. And he used the feminine form of Saurus, Sara. So it really honored the families of John and James Peebles, on whose land the finds were made. And the generic name also refers to Marion Brandvold, due to her discovery of the nest with the remains of those eggshells and those babies that were too large to be hatchlings. So these two discoveries led to others, and the area later became known as Egg Mountain, so you might have heard of that, where they still find dinosaur eggs today. And this was really the first proof of giant dinosaurs raising and feeding their young. So I took their 10-day, went out and took their 10-day paleo training course that they offer, and passed it. And so now I volunteer both in the field whenever I can, and in the lab. So basically it took me 54 years to be able to dig for dinosaurs, but I did it. Another result of volunteering with the Florida Fossil Hunters was I met the president of the Florida Paleontological Society at the time, Paul Roth, who's also a good friend. And I began volunteering at the National Fossil Day events, and have been for the last 3 years. And Paul provided me with an opportunity to write a very small portion of an article that he did that was featured on the National Park Service website as part of their National Fossil Day. And my portion was written on my experiences in volunteering at the Thomas Farm site. You might recognize this picture from the previous slide. I prepped the Oreodont skull for Paul that was placed in the DeSoto National Memorial Paleontologist Educational Kit right here. And that's part of the National Park Service Junior Rangers program. And by the way, if you have any fossils or you would like to contribute towards these incredible kits, please contact Paul or let me know and I'll put you in contact with Paul. Here's a picture to the left of the prep skull and the informational card that goes inside the kit with the actual skull. These kits, if you haven't seen them in person, I'd encourage you to try to get to see one. They just are beautiful, they're educational, and kids just love them. So far I have 424 specimens that are cataloged as a result of my volunteer efforts with the museum. And this does not include most of the fossils that I've collected at Montbrook, and those are still being processed into the public database. It's a pretty incredible database. Here's a snapshot of a portion of it. You could see information on the fossil that you collected, all kinds of information. You could see pictures of, in some cases, you could see if it's on loan for research, what it was identified, the species, subspecies. And to me, this is so important because these fossils, they'll be around for years, long after I'm gone. They'll be around for study and research and exhibit. So if you volunteer with the Florida Museum of Natural History, you can find your fossils here as well. And I placed a link at the very top. So if you want to copy that, or later when you get the presentation, I'd encourage you to go in and take a look at some of the fossils. Now, since passing the Two Medicine Dinosaur Center's Paleo Training class, I do help volunteer both in the field, which helps them build their museum collection, and I help to prepare and restore specimens for exhibit under their supervision in the lab. And again, you too can also do this by taking and passing their paleo class. This year it runs from July 17th to the 26th. So here's just a couple of pictures of some of my previous trips there. So in the top right here, is a picture of Corey Coverdell in the blue. And he is the director of the Two Medicine Dinosaur Center. And there you might recognize Bob Graham. And they're teaching me preparation techniques. And both Bob and Corey have taught me a great deal about fossil preparation and restoration. So I'm very fortunate to have had their one-on-one training. Interesting, these pictures here have to do with last May. So last May I went out to dig at one of their Tyrannosaur sites. And although it was 60 plus degrees the day before I went, the day after I got there, it snowed and rained the entire week I was there. But the great thing about that is I spent all week in the lab. So I got to learn prepping techniques, and I actually worked on Tyrannosaur teeth that were then put on display. So you'll see up here, this is just one of the teeth that I worked on. So you'll see the before and the after. And here's the exhibit here, and you'll see those in the red dots are some of the ones that I prepared. This here is a picture of one of their egg nest sites, and so we were out there doing a study on the egg nest itself. So we were out there looking for shells and trying to find the actual nest. And this picture to the right is one of the other students when I first went out to take the class, and we were using an air scribe, which is a lot of fun. And we were using that on a Triceratops jacket, and there's actually a femur in there. This is just a summary of some of the outreach events I've participated in over the last several years. I've volunteered over 1,500 hours of volunteer work since 2011. I do keep record, just like I do when I update my field journal. I update a spreadsheet. I take pictures of my work before, during, and after, so I can go back and refer to them later and remember what I did, because I'll forget otherwise. And it's interesting to go back and remember and look at some of the things I've done. I also had the opportunity in 2016 at the regional meeting for the Southeastern Geological Society of America. I had the opportunity to co-write with Bonnie Cronin a poster on outreach with the Florida fossil hunters, and you'll see that in the top right. And we had significant contribution from Eleanor Gardner on that. Recently, I volunteered at National Dino Day at Lou Gardens in Orlando, and it was a fun event. It was a lot of people there, over 4,000 attendees, 4,660 to be exact, and over 1,500 children. Here's a picture on the right. can't really see so well the line, but the line went back through the gardens itself. So we were able to reach a lot of people at that event. And this picture here is actually of Bob's granddaughter helping to volunteer at the event as well. So she was volunteering, getting her volunteering started really early. One of the other things is one of Florida Fossil Hunters' most significant volunteer events is a Women in Paleontology event at the Orlando Science Center, which is coming up again this year. And I've helped to coordinate that the last several years, along with Bonnie Cronin, and with support from the My Fossil Group and Eleanor Gardner and the Florida Paleontological Society and others. And so we're really thankful for all the support in making this event as successful as possible. So the event itself, just to tell you a little bit about it, is it's basically a paleontological education outreach event. And what we're trying to do is to reach minority K through 12 girls in urban settings and provide opportunities for paleontology students to engage and inspire underprivileged youth. It's our hopes that bringing successful women and minority paleontologists will enable children to identify with role models and hopefully be inspired to pursue their own science interest. And as this evolves, what we'd like to do, we plan to produce a how-to guide for other avocational clubs to utilize what we learned from this project so that others can facilitate similar events in their regions. And so here are some pics from the event. Depending on the girl's age, I do let them touch and use my actual field tools. So my pin vices, my brushes, my loops. I explain the importance of field journals, and I have them uncover an actual fossils. So you'll see a couple of these pictures here, this one and this one. I have some fossils that are hidden under the sand, and I have them come over and find it. And then I let them make an actual journal entry in there and explain the importance of that. So don't miss this year's Women in Paleontology event. I have to put a little plug in there for the event. It's at the Orlando Science Center, Saturday, May 6th, 10 to 4. And I hope you can make it. If you're in the area and you'd like to come on by and volunteer or help promote it, we would love for you to do that. These are some of the areas that we're reaching out to for this year's event. So if you're planning on doing a similar outreach event and would like to share some of your ideas with us, please let us know. We're learning as we go. And I would like to take a moment to say special thanks to Paul Roth, if he's on tonight, for taking the time to research and share some of these girl groups and the contact information for us. I've been very blessed with several awards and recognition as a result of my volunteering, so I do also want to take a moment to thank the Florida Museum of Natural History, the Florida Paleontological Society, and also the Florida Fossil Hunters for this recognition. I really appreciate it. So, where do you find volunteer opportunities? Well, my story obviously started significantly with Fossil Club. So I would really recommending if you're not a member of a Fossil Club to reach out and look for those in your area. The Paleontological Society, I think most states have them, but you could certainly look to see if they do. Universities and museums. And just a recommendation with museums, when you are checking for volunteer opportunities there, I would check to make sure that it's for an amateur volunteer opportunities, because not all museums allow amateurs in the field or the lab. So you do want to just double check that. So what is your area of interest? For me, I love field research. I love being outside, digging in the dirt, being in nature. So that is, anytime I get a chance to be out digging, I am there. But that's not for everyone. That's not everyone's preference. So maybe you have an interest in preparation and restoration. Maybe you'd like to do some screen washing. Maybe you'd like to work in collections, so there could be an opportunity for you to write catalog numbers on fossils, for example. Events. There's opportunities there to volunteer, even things like setting up and tearing down, carrying things in and out, bringing in food. All these things are really big help, and it's very much appreciated when you're working these events. Also, education and outreach. So maybe you like to give presentations or speak, or you like promoting, marketing, social media, making phone calls, emails, things of that nature. So really, there are volunteer opportunities for everyone. Here's just a couple search phrases that you might want to use to find some volunteer opportunities near you. I usually use Google, but you can use whatever you want, and you can use any variation of this. And I've included 2 links to the Florida Museum of Natural History and, of course, the Two Medicine Dinosaur Center, and this will take you right to their volunteer page. So why volunteer? Well, when specimens are cataloged, they're not going to end up in a garage sale or thrown out when you pass away. So they'll be saved, and someone else will get to enjoy them. To me, volunteering is it's an incredible educational experience, and it really helps to strengthen museum collections and advance research. And it really provides amateurs like me an opportunity to discover, preserve, and protect fossils for future generations to see. And it's a lot of fun. Volunteering has brought me friendship, laughter, and knowledge, and I encourage anyone, if you're interested in fossils, to get involved and come join us. This is the last slide, but in case you're wondering why there's a dog on this slide, it's not a mistake. That's my rescue dog, Doodle, and he has nothing to do with fossils. He can't see or hear anymore, but he makes me smile every day, and so I hope he brings a smile to you today as we.
Excellent. Thank you, Cindy. I know we all enjoyed your presentation and Doodle. That was a great presentation. At this time, I'm going to open it up to everyone for questions and discussion. Anyone is welcome to type questions in the chat box, and I will read each one aloud and ask Cindy to respond. All right, so Cindy, what is your favorite dig site?
That's a trick question. In Florida, it's Montbrook, hands down. I love Montbrook. In Montana, probably a site that they have over in Malta. And that's actually this picture here, this bottom right picture, there's a Edmontosaurus, and that's an ischium that I found there. So I like that site.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite fossil that you have collected?
Yes, it would be a dinosaur egg. But I haven't collected it. I actually bought that. I didn't collect it. As far as found, let me see. That one I bought, but as far as found, it would probably really just be a shark's tooth. I don't have much of a collection. Most of my time, as you can see, is usually volunteering with some organization.
Cool. What kind of Paleoenvironment is Montbrook? Do you know?
It's sand. It's mostly sand. And I believe, and I don't want to speak out of turns, but I believe it's considered possibly a channel where rivers came in, because there's just due to the amount of fossils that we find there, and there's a lot, especially where we're looking at right now, there's a lot of different things. So you might be in one square, and like last weekend, so I found an alligator, 2 alligator verts, and then you find a turtle, and then right next to you is a gomphotherium, and all these things are right in there together at the same thing. So I don't know if it's really been determined yet, but it's for the most part when you're digging in Montbrook. In fact, this picture over here is Montbrook, the bottom left. So it's a very, very sandy. You do have some concretions, but most of it is a very sandy environment. And it's really interesting to see the layers. Can't see it in this picture so well, but you can see the different layers, from obviously probably the sand coming in and going back out. So it's really actually quite pretty.
I've been out to Montbrook. I completely agree. It's the seeing the different colors in the sand is very pretty. How did you even know to look for fossil clubs when you moved to Florida? They don't tend to advertise, or do they?
They don't. I really just thought of it one day. I mean, when I lived in Pennsylvania, they didn't have one where I lived, and I moved here, and I just thought one day, I wonder if they have a fossil club here. It's Florida. There should be, there should be fossils here, and so I just Googled it, and I found the Florida Fossil Hunters.
Cool. So, do you recommend for other people to do that in other states? Do you think that's effective?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Google find fossil club near you. If you like rocks, there's also some gem and mineral clubs as well. But it's amazing what's out there.
Do you volunteer with other organizations or efforts, or is fossil hunting where you decided to focus?
Mostly fossil hunting, yes. So it's mostly all fossil clubs. Trying to think where else I might have volunteered, but mostly it's with fossil.
Okay. Old Fossil would like to know if you have been to the Nebraska Badlands collecting fossils.
No, but I would love to go. Let's go.
I,
I'm
I
ready.
agree. Let's go.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
In terms of your interest in fossils, what would you still like to do that you have not done yet?
Um, I would like to go dig in. I would like to go to Colorado and do some volunteering with them as well. I haven't been to Colorado, but I know they have a really nice museum there. So I wouldn't mind going and checking that out.
Cool. So
And
a
going
little bit
and going
back
and going
to
to the Nebraska Badlands.
so you want to go to the Badlands.
Yes.
We have another question in regards to which museum you're interested in visiting in Colorado.
The Denver Museum. It's the one that
Cool.
I think Kristen McKenzie, I think, is there. I think she's still there.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
Yes, she is.
Yes.
So going back a little bit more towards finding fossils, are the sediments the swan fossils are preserved and unique, or are they different in any way?
The ones that I found actually were a little unique. They weren't as There's different sand at the at Montbrook. It's really interesting. So you'll have this white sand that is the whitest sand I've ever seen, and then you get kind of the gold color. But the swan bone was in a darker kind of grayish type sand that was very gritty. Um, harder to dig through. So that area, put a little water on to make it, softer so you could get through it without breaking things. So yeah, it actually was quite different from some of the other material there.
Okay, so that gives us an idea of how to start looking for bones. Do
Hmm.
you feel amateurs are respected for their contributions by the pros?
My experience is yes. In fact, I've been really surprised at how open-armed I have felt very welcome in the professional community and very grateful for it. So it's been my experience, yes.
What advice do you have for young women who are interested in fossils and paleo?
Come to the Women in Paleontology event May 6th. Um, because you know why I say that,
I like that idea.
but you know why I say that in addition to I think it's a great event is because you get to mentor, you get to see fossils, to talk to, students and women professionals in the field of science. So you can answer questions about, what should you expect and what classes should you take, and just really have a mentor. You have someone you can go to. It's not, the unknown. So it's really, I would say, reach out to a university or a fossil club and get to know people, because it's just amazing. You could see my story here just from joining the Florida Fossil Hunters, how many people I met just as a result of just that one membership.
I completely agree. Have you ever been to an SVP convention, Society of Vertebrate Paleontology?
No. I went to, well, you know what? I shouldn't say that. I went to an event in Gainesville. Let's see, it was the 10th annual. It was a convention. I actually just went at my own expense just to educate myself, and that might have been an SVP convention. Can't remember the name of it.
I
Yes,
think it may have been in an ACP.
that sounds right. Yeah, yeah, yes.
Okay. What do you think makes you so in tune with finding fossils?
Um, I don't know. I just have always liked just like nature, loved earth. I just feel grounded, and for some reason I just really very attentive when I'm digging, and I don't know, just very, very lucky to find fossils.
Okay. And what kinds of specific skills are gained during the courses at Two Medicine Dino Center?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. Let me see. See, I actually printed out some of the things that they cover. Okay, so they basically give a short introduction to things like Earth's history, the evolution of life, basic geology, basic biology, and then you go over some basic field procedures, excavation techniques, and preparation methods. And then you actually get to put all your skills to the test by going out to an active dinosaur dig site. And then, of course, there's a test afterwards, a written test.
Okay. And back to conventions. Why do you like conventions? What did you enjoy about your time here in Gainesville during the NACP?
I like just being able to educate myself and be around professionals and see what's out there. It was actually my first exposure example to see posters. I didn't really know what they were. So it was really interesting, and, who would know, a year later or two that I'd be doing one. So it was just really nice the networking and the educational part of it.
Okay. And did it help you craft your poster?
Yes, actually it did. It did, and again, I had to really give a lot of credit to Eleanor, who's just been phenomenal and very supportive, and she helped Bonnie and me significantly when it came to that as well. But it did give me, attending that conference did too give me an idea of what, the expectations would be.
Okay. And a couple slides back, there was a picture with a caption on it that said possible mudball. Um, what was that possible
Oh,
mudball,
right there.
if you remember?
Yes, good catch. And that is the egg nest. So what that is, we're actually digging around this area. So a possible mud ball is something that a dinosaur makes when they're making a nest. So they're, imagine if you will, they're storing up that mud area for the nest. So that could indicate that there's a nest down in this area further. Um, and I had to leave a day after this. They actually did start to find shells after I left, and then it was the end of the season. So we're actually be going back probably this to this site this July. I don't know for sure, but we never did get to finish digging here. But that possible mud ball would be indicative of a possible nest.
Well, thank you, Cindy. You certainly have a fun and adventurous life with all of your fossil adventures and digging. If Are there any more questions out there that we haven't answered? It looks like new fossil is typing as well as old fossil. I wonder who they could be. All right. Well, it seems like we seems like we have run out of questions. So, Cindy, I don't know if you have any parting words.
No, just again, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate the opportunity to share my adventures with the group.
Well, we truly enjoyed hearing your stories. They're wonderful. I want to thank you all for attending. Please don't forget to complete the short survey. You can click the link directly from the presentation or click on the link being shared in the chat box. Remember that you will be able to view this recorded webinar in the MyFossil website, or you can continue the discussion in the webinar forum. And don't forget to mark your calendars for April 26th for our final webinar in the series. And with that, I think we'll say goodbye.
Okay, bye everyone.